Hello again and welcome if you are new. In today's video, it's kind of a continuation of the last one. The main focus in this video is going to be for the bed prep that I did this year. On this day, I only had about 20 minutes, so we went ahead and we took it in sections. This year, as I was feeling overwhelmed, I really tried to break down this process into small sections so that I could actually get something done, because every time I walked out into the yard, I just felt just excruciatingly overwhelmed. And so on this day, I set a timer for 20 minutes and we focused on this one little area, and then we came back another day when I had more time to continue on to the other areas. On this day, little did I know when I had started this bed prep that this was going to become a bug and a worm hunt. We started hunting for bugs and for worms, and like I said, we only had 20 minutes on this day. Once that 20 minutes was over, I actually had to clock into work, so I had made sure to put the fence back the way that it was when I had taken it off. I really didn't want to forget to do that, or else my dog would have just dug this completely out and just made a huge mess. So I made sure to put the fence back, and then we came back on a different day. We had come back a day or two later when I was off of work, and I pulled out the drip irrigation so that I wouldn't hit it with the shovel. I opened up this gate on this side so that it would be out of the way while I worked on this bed, and my child here was gearing up for another day of hunting for bugs and worms, so we had to get her bug kit kind of set up so that she can feel ready for her adventure. So we got that set up and then got started on pulling up all these weeds. Her response was that every time I found a worm, to make sure to give it to her so she can collect it. So we went ahead and went worm hunting, and we pulled out all of these weeds. Referring back to the plan that I had sketched out in my notepad, this area is up on the top right here, and the left side of this little L-shaped bed is a little bit more shadier than the right side here. So I had kept that in mind as I had planned on what I wanted to plant here. I know that the morning glories were quite happy here. Last year this is where the blue ones were, but this year I had decided to go ahead, and since I had so many of the other ones already seeding themselves, I just went ahead and transplanted some of those over here. And so a part of this will have morning glories in there. We planted out our zinnias here. We put a bunch of marigolds and more of the button bachelors or bachelor button flowers. We had planted out right here some of those loofah gourds on the far right side, and the okra, we planted some okra here, and several different types of sunflowers were also planted in here. This is where I had the cucumbers, morning glories, and the zinnias last year, and the cucumbers were just not very happy here, so I went ahead and I picked a different spot for those this year. But because this area still had the fence and the ability for vining plants, I wanted to make sure to incorporate something that vines. So we just put the morning glories back over here, and we mixed them up to have those mixture ones. Since those ones came out the fastest and kind of lasted the longest, I wanted to kind of have those for sure reincorporated over here. So I'm really excited to see all the flowers come up, because that was one of my favorite things last year. So we are looking forward to it. Now that the weeds were all out of this bed, it was ready to start planting the seeds in here and transplanting any of our seeds that were large enough to come in here. So that was really exciting. Unfortunately, that meant that our bug and worm hunt had to come to an end in this portion of the garden, and we reassembled the fence and leveled this out so that the dog would not dig it out. Seedlings on the other side were doing really well overall. Of course, the whole time I was feeling like they weren't doing great. We did have a multitude of severe thunderstorms that came through and continual flash flooding. So a lot of times they ended up looking like this, where they were drowned in a bunch of water. So they started to turn a bit yellow because they were not happy sitting in so much water. and I would regularly come out here and dump the water out. So I was getting very anxious at this point to go ahead and try to kind of get them ready to go in the ground, because I really didn't want them to die from all the overwhelming amounts of water that was in there. But because the greenhouse had gotten destroyed, I had to just grow them out on a table outside, and so they continued to get so much water in them, and they were not super happy about that. The one thing though that I really love about thunderstorms, these severe thunderstorms in Texas, is how beautiful the sky looks that night. At night, after thunderstorms in Texas, the sky just looks absolutely beautiful to me, and so I tried to capture that in the picture, but it's kind of hard to grasp it with the picture. I just love it so much, so it's hard to show how beautiful it is. Either way, on the other side of the garden here in this bed, I had decided not to flip the soil in this bed. There was some things growing in here that I wanted to have them regrow, and I wasn't sure that if I was to flip this it would disturb them. So after I had pulled up all the weeds that were growing in here, I just left it as it was, and then I was going to come back to it. And then shortly after I had pulled these weeds out of here, the Alyssum that we had planted here last year started to grow back, and I believe that that's probably what I had in mind when I had pulled up these weeds. And so I just left it like this, and then the Alyssum was coming up so beautifully. And then on a different day we came back to the carrots that were in the ground here. We had pulled up all of those radishes after February. The only radishes that were growing were some purple and white ones, which I don't know which ones they were, but they just did not taste good at all to me. So I went ahead and I pulled them up and I just laid them down to compost. And then through March and into the beginning of April, we were just picking away at these carrots, and I would just wash them off out here, and I would pick them up after they were washed off and put them into Ziploc bags into the fridge, and then I left them there until I was ready to use them. My favorite way, and our favorite way in our family to eat carrots, we really don't like carrots very much, but our favorite way is to actually make like a soup or a broth or something like that with carrots in it. So oftentimes what I'll do with carrots is just cut them into either discs or cube them up and put them in the freezer, and then I would just put them in a soup broth or something like that. And I was looking through the canning books that I had bought to see if there was anything else that I could do with a carrot that we might like. And of course I saw a recipe for to pickle the carrots, and so that's something I think that I would like to try. I've never really had a pickled carrot, but it sounded kind of good, so I'll probably be taking all these carrots and just trying to pickle them and freezing whatever amount I don't want to pickle. Other than that, the carrots here, they didn't get very big. They were kind of stubby and short, but some of them were a little bit larger, but either way, we will use them. As we got later into April, I said, ready or not, you're coming out with these carrots, and I started to cut all the ones that I was going to save into this colander here. We managed to get 2-gallon-sized Ziploc bags and a half of carrots, and those were all going to be waiting in the fridge. But we went ahead and started to prep this bed so that we can get the seedlings and other seeds planted for this year's garden. I had left all of the carrot tops here in the dirt, and then we went ahead and flipped the soil on these so that the carrot tops would just go ahead and compost back into the soil and add some nutrition back into the soil. And then we washed off all these carrots. Now, I wouldn't say that this harvest of carrots was a great harvest, but you know, it was a decent carrot harvest. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna chalk this up to a win, and we're just gonna move on to the next thing. As I was harvesting these through the end of February and March and whatnot, we were kind of grabbing a couple at a time, and I was thinking that as I was grabbing them, I would kind of be thinning them out so that the other ones had room to get bigger and whatnot. And this is kind of what had happened, but not completely. So either way, I'm not super disappointed with how this turned out, and I may try it again next year. We'll see how things go. After I had finished working on these carrots and they were all out of the ground, it kind of took me a minute to figure out what to do next. I still had quite a bit of time on this day. I had accidentally woken up early and came out here and started working on this just because I really wanted to see some progress here, but I really struggled to figure out what to do next. So I just started to tidy up the space. I moved the frost cloth that I had put in here last December, and then I don't know how much it helped, but we tried it, but it needed to get put away now. And then I started just kind of pulling weeds as I seen them in these areas to kind of clear some space, to kind of help myself see the vision of this space come together. And then I just committed at this point to start pulling out all of these weeds and start to reclaim the walk space here so that I could see the garden beds and start to just be able to be at peace and have some joy to look forward to what this garden season is going to be. My child had woken up around this time and came out here to play and then started to help, but she was still feeling a bit tired, so she didn't really want to help. So I just continued on pulling up all this weeds that had grown into this pathway. I'm gonna have to, I believe this year, go ahead and put down something here to stop these from coming back up, because it's very apparent at this point that the cardboard layer that I had put down a long time ago is very much no longer helping, and the mulch is not doing all that much in this area. So I may have to go pick up maybe some kind of cloth to put down in these specific areas so that this grass won't come back quite as much, and mulch it again. Either way, as I was pulling this back, I did start to feel a lot better. I started to be able to see the shape of the garden come together, which was so encouraging. And so we went ahead and we flipped this part of the garden bed, and that was almost everything that was left to do before we can get some plants in here. The only thing that was left growing in here was the Swiss chard. The kale had died back at this point. We had our final harvest on that kale this winter, and then it just died back. It was not happy anymore, and that was okay. I mean, we had it for about 2 years or so, or a year and a half, which was really cool. And then I'll be planting it again, but this time I'm gonna plant it in a different area. I did go ahead and make the decision to pull up the Swiss chard from here. It was still very happy. However, I just didn't really want it here anymore. We weren't really enjoying eating it anymore. And so I had thought that I would go ahead and pull it up and then plant it somewhere else, because I just didn't like it being in this particular location. I didn't want it here this year, but I went ahead and pulled it out, and I will show you the clip of pulling it out. But that's everything that we did in this video. We were super excited about all of the worms that we found, and it was so exciting to see them. It was very encouraging, because that to me signified that the soil was getting much healthier in these different areas, because the worms were so big and there was so many of them, which was absolutely amazing to me. But other than that, that is it for this video. I will go ahead and play the clip of me pulling up this Swiss chard, because it was actually quite satisfying. And yeah, I will catch you in the next one. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to see more, please subscribe and like this video. And as always, if you have any comments, any feedback, or any wisdom to pass on, I would love to hear from you in the comments. So go ahead and leave a comment, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Thick boy.